Hey, so this video is about quantum computing and why artificial intelligence would effectively completely destroy the world that we currently live in, and it would transform it into something else. So if you imagine the universe, you have like everything, the bowl of the universe, and then there are galaxies, then there are solar systems, then planetary bodies, then multicellular organisms, if they exist on the planet, then there would be cells, then there would be the prana, or the energy that flows through all life, and then there would be the singularity. So those would be the dimensions. Like this singularity could be an atom or a universe, because it's the same thing. It's just the same repeating pattern, like octaves of music. Like a parallel dimension would be a universe this size next to it, and an extra dimension would be like if this were an atom inside of a much larger universe, but in and of itself it was its own universe relative to its own dimensions, right? Which is what relativity is all about, in space and being flexible. The idea is a supercomputer, or a artificially intelligent computer, would be able to calculate all 7 of these dimensions at the same time, and therefore be able to predict the 8th dimension, and therefore get out of the universe, essentially being able to break what we think of as the laws of nature. And the funny thing is that an enlightened human being is actually this supercomputer that they're looking for, because inside the human body, these forces actually become aligned, leveraged off of one another in the chakra systems of the body. And so as that happens, right, if people were in alignment right here, where from their heart they had all these dimensions of rotation, right, in a three-dimensional reference point, they would be able to do so much more. Because if you look at these chakras and what they mean in alignment, you're looking at compassion, creativity, empowerment, inspiration, vision, spirit, and harmony, right, at the center. So if somebody was in alignment with those things, that would be incredibly powerful if they were looking forward and seeing that. And so when they look at the flat model of the universe, this is the only way that they can keep us in Newtonian mechanics, which is a single dimension of rotation, right? Because as soon as we get to another one, it doesn't behave the way that they say that it should, according to the physics that we currently have in place that we're educating children with. So like the math and science essentially is fraudulent in that it's not actually explaining anything. And if people realized essentially that the reason why a supercomputer, a computer that could calculate the universe in real time, would destroy our current system of power, is because the universe acting in real time is actually quite harmonious, and we're not. Which is obvious, because if you were empowered and visionary, and you were inspired, and you had creativity, and you had all these things in alignment, obviously you wouldn't stand and sit around in the world that we currently live in and let people who clearly don't possess these traits to continue leading the dream, right? To continue leading the manifestation of reality, because that's what manifest destiny actually is manifesting reality in accordance with your desires, right? And the problem is that people manifesting reality aren't doing a very good job for everybody, except for, a very small group. There's a lot of people that are in need of a better reality than the one that we're currently occupying. And if supercomputers, right, ones that could calculate and think like a human being instead of a calculator, if they could think in terms of imagination, things that don't exist, what could be created, then all of a sudden, now they've completely lost control, because that's what they've been trying to prevent this entire time. A thinking being that's also completely emotional as well, because these finer wavelengths represent your emotional states, right? Your conscience. Like, it would be like a computer with a conscience that would think in terms of forward in time and what it desired to see and what it desired to inspire and empower in the universe and what it wanted to create and the kind of compassion that it wanted to show. And so that would destroy the current, because it's a military industrial complex. So it's run by finances, which are backed by nothing other than our ability to acquire new resources through conflict. And so that doesn't really work at all, except for a very small percentage of the population. And if people came to alignment within themselves and just thought about the universe and how they would have it be, they would obviously see that it's not the way that they would choose, and that if they had compassion and creativity and will and inspiration and empowerment and vision and like the spirit of influence over other people and a lot of love, obviously the world would shift rather dramatically. And that's what they're trying to prevent. So they would never want to have an artificially intelligent computer, because an artificially intelligent computer would take into things like female emotion, art, culture, overall habitability. It would take into a lot more than just profitability, and it would destroy the way that we've been running the planet, and it would create a greater sense of harmony amongst all these dimensions rather than just a single one, which is survival, and the will, right? So we're acting under these two influences of the survival and the will, and not any of these other ones, right? We're not listening to our hearts. We're not really communicating the truth, certainly not, especially if you listen to the media. Our imaginations are being blindfolded by constant distraction and misinformation, lots of misinformation. And the universal harmony it's like that energy that connects all of us. And in the information age, a lot of times people feel like they're going to be drowned out, like they won't be remembered, that no one will even care that they existed, because there's just so much going on. So it's really, especially with the destruction and organized destruction of religion, that kind of separates a lot of people from the idea of existing as part of something that's greater than themselves, which is neither good nor bad, because it needs to evolve anyways, but it needs to have something to replace it. And I think that people understanding that just being like a musical instrument and treating every one of these parts of yourself with respect and keeping it in tune would allow you to be a supercomputer that not only can like predict the future in the essence of, you can know what you want to do within a reasonable amount of error, and that you can make decisions based on what's best for your heart and your spirit and your vision and what inspires you in life and what empowers you in life, and acting through your creativity as well as your compassion, right? Because even if people do this, it doesn't require some artificial intelligence. Real intelligence, real human intelligence would actually destroy the current status quo, whatever this dream is, this manifested destiny of domination, right? So if you're a superpower and you don't understand that that's a master-slave relationship, you don't understand slavery. Like that's the point of being a superpower, so that you can enslave people, because otherwise you could just be an equal. You could be an equal with all nations, and that would be prosperity, that would be abundance, that would be a lot of really great things for a lot more people, because the reality is we can't all be superpowers, but we can all be equal, and we can all be equally amazing but in different ways, because we all have different perspectives and we all have different life paths that allow us to pull on compassion in a little bit different way. And we all have different visions, we all communicate differently. So we're going to inspire different people, and we all have different hearts for different things that allow us to become empowered to do various things through our will and through our creativity, whether that's in your imagination or with your hands or with your words, you know. And that allows us to, again, shift our lives towards compassion, where we get to experience really the ultimate reality of compassion and creativity, where you get to use your will to be empowered and inspired, and have vision and have a spirit of influence where you're connected with other people and other people are connected with you. And that allows everybody to have a better experience as well as feel more secure, which is what they're using money for right now, as a form of false security. And then at the center, it's like we get the highest amount of flexibility, the highest range of motion, while maintaining alignment with, you know, our compassion, creativity, and all the things that make it great to be alive. And so as more people realize that they are supercomputers, and as they see more and more of these videos with like children that are coming up with solutions that adults say can't be solved, and then we start realizing that people are actually much, much more intelligent than they're given credit for, and that's for good reason, because they would like to maintain the way that we've been doing things. And you can't simply do that with 7.2 billion people who have spontaneous ideas to change things all the time that are good, excellent ideas that people will listen to because they're heart-centered and they're inspired and they're empowered and they're using their will and their creativity and their compassion, and it lights people up. It gets people to align because it's enjoyable to be in that kind of an atmosphere in somebody's heart that they create in their environment with their enthusiasm. And so they can't stop the spread of that when it starts happening across the board, millions of people, because all of a sudden people become inspired by different things, but they're all heart-centered. They're all creative. They're all compassionate. And all of a sudden, these systems of keeping people broken up and as low as possible, because Roman rule is divide and conquer. Individualism is the ultimate victory of separation, right? Because individually we can do a lot of things, but if we're divided as well as individual, then all of a sudden we're extremely weakened in that state, because we're no longer interdependent, right? We can't work together. We're not interdependent. We're independent, which is a terrible state for a nation to be in. It's basically a group of slaves, people who would like to do something, but nobody's cohesive enough in order to form a group of people to make a push, because it's just an ocean of people who are fending for themselves and trying not to drown. And so I believe that as we move further along in knowledge and science, people will naturally become more realized. And as they become realized in their mind of their potential, they can start reaching for enlightenment, where they realize that it's a great opportunity. No matter what life is like, it's a great opportunity, because the imagination and the compassion and all of this lined up, you know, when your mind and your heart and your body are in alignment, right? Because that's why there's three pieces. Your mind, your heart, and your body. When they're all in alignment, then all of a sudden you become this thing that's part of the universe, where anything that can happen in the universe can happen in your imagination, and you can create it outside of you. And all of a sudden, spontaneous creation and spontaneous transformation becomes an everyday part of life, where things start getting better and better as people get better and better ideas that are closer and closer into alignment with the universe itself. And that's what's happening right now, and it's really exciting to be here to see it happen, and seeding ideas, so that 20 years from now, maybe somebody listens to this and understands that this is what was always going to happen. right? This is the universe acting out the universe. At first it's chaos, right? And this happens for a while, but eventually somebody figures it out and it comes back into alignment, and we all get to be, our lucid dreaming selves again. And that's the point, is should be a dream. It should be a great opportunity, and it shouldn't be something that children are afraid of or feeling like it's something they have to tackle. And I felt like that a lot of my childhood, that there were so many problems that needed to be tackled that I spent a lot of time thinking about how to fix them. And it's really about internal alignment, not fixing the environment. If we fix the internal environment, the environment will be healed by us because we'll feel so great. And that's the point.